Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so one improvement that I've made to the allotment this year is to build this frame, which is basically what I've just put the strawberries in. So as you can see, what I've done, if I just lift this up, what I've done is I've welded a metal frame all the way around. These are basically upturned slabs, and this is something that I built around 12 years ago to put carrots in, but as I no longer grow carrots, I thought it'd be better to put strawberries and stuff in here. So what I've done is I've put this metal frame all the way around, and it's just basically bits of scrap metal that I've managed to salvage or get from one place or another. So I've basically cut it all around, welded all the pieces together, as you can see, welded it to the upright metal. So all of these slabs are now, sort of held really firmly in place. I planted it out with strawberries about a month or so ago, so you can see these strawberry plants have taken really well. And then what I've done here is I've welded some conduit pipe onto this metal frame, and then inside there I put an M12 or M14 bolt, and then welded that to this frame here, which is made from conduit pipe, and so that can go down like that. And basically what I've done is I've stretched some nylon net over there, which will basically stop the birds getting at the strawberries when they ripen. So what it enables me to do is basically have all of the strawberries and everything in there. No birds or anything can get at it, but when I want to basically pick the strawberries, all I need to do is just lift that up, and then I can get to the strawberries and all the rest of it. So it took me probably about 4 hours to weld it all together and cut it and get it all in one piece. It's made out of all bits and bobs that I've managed to salvage. All of this is completely recyclable stuff which I've got from here, there and everywhere. As you can see, I've had to weld sort of various pieces together. You can see here this is actually 2 pieces of pipe welded in the middle, but it's all completely recycled, and it's enabled me to make this frame which will keep the strawberries nice and safe from the birds. Okay, so we're in the first tunnel, and I've basically marked out these stakes. Now these are about 2.5 foot apart, and then in a kind of zigzag pattern, as you can see, going up. Now that's where the large kale, the petrage kale, is going to be planted when it's ready to go in. But what I want to do is to try and use the ground a bit better, because these are quite large plants and they don't develop till sort of later on in the year, or even into next year. What I can do is in between these rows and in front of this row here is I can plant some of the crops. So what I'm going to plant in this first row here, as you can see, I've raked all the ground off. This has all been dug over, rotivated, all nice and loose. And what I've done is I've struck a line along here, and in here I'm going to be planting some beetroot. This is from D-Re. And basically there's 270 seeds in here. And I'll just show you how to plant that now. Okay, so here's the line where I'm so I've already sort of planted up to there. So what I'm doing is basically just going along here, just making sure that the ground's nice and loose, because I've been stepping on bits of it to rake it. And then I'm just making a small hollow like that. Those are the seeds. As you can see, they're kind of like little pieces of cork. And I'm just going to sprinkle them sort of 1 every 2 inches or so as best I can. Like that. If there's a few more, it doesn't really matter. And then all I'm doing then is just crumbling up some earth on top of them like that. You don't want to cover them with too much, you only need 1/4 of an inch or so, sort of 2 millimetres, 3 millimetres of soil. And then what I'm doing is just tamping them down to make sure that the ground is in contact with the seed. and then I'll leave this line in so I can see where the seeds have gone, so I know where to water, because obviously I'll water along this line to make sure that they're kept nice and damp if we have hot weather. And then I'll show you these in a couple of weeks' time when they start to come up. Okay, so it's time to pot up the cabbage. Now I only planted these a week or so ago. As you can see, they're already sort of at the kind of size that you want to prick them out. So what I'm going to do is prick these out and put them into pots that are about this big. These are kind of 4-inch square pots, which I find quite easy because they stack quite economically together. And what I'll do is I'll put these into metal trays, as you can see underneath here, like a metal tray. And then I actually sit these on these sort of fabric. You can't really see them there. They're like a fabric cloth. Let me just move it over so you can see. So this is the fabric. Now you can use anything really. These are actually absorbent pads that are commercially available, but you can use any old sort of towels or blankets or anything like that. And what it does is when you water them, this gets soaked with water, and then basically it sort of retains that moisture at the bottom of the pot so they don't really dry out. And I find that most plants grow much better that way. What I've done with the compost, to conserve compost, what I've done is I've mixed about 50-60% of brand new clover compost with spent compost that was used last year for the peppers. That's why you can see these sort of little roots sticking out. That's basically from the peppers last year. So I'm just trying to conserve as much compost as possible, because I've got all of these to do, all the brassicas. I've also got beans and stuff like that coming up as well. So I'm trying to use the least amount of compost as possible this year, because obviously nobody can get hold of it. Well, it's really difficult to get hold of it. So anyway, as soon as you get to about 1.5 inches or so tall, like these have, basically what you can do is get them out. Now all you need to start off with is a pencil or something like that, or a lollipop stick, and then just go in underneath, because what you don't want to do is damage the roots like that. And then what you'll find is just holding it by the roots. Don't hold it by the stalks. If you damage the stalk, then the plant's basically broken. It'll never recover from that. So a nice little pluglet like this with a little ball of root at the bottom, and then all I'm doing then is making a hole in the middle of the pot like that, bob that in, and then plant it at the same level or slightly deeper. Slightly deeper is no problem at all, and then compact it down quite well. Brassicas like the firm ground to be around the roots, so don't be worried about sort of firming them down too much. Get another one out, nice little, so I've not touched the plant itself, so you can see nice little root on there. Again, just stick your finger in, drop that in, and then firm it in, and then you can get into a bit of a rhythm. As soon as you've got the first few out, you can then just stick your finger in like I do, and then just pop them up like that. As I say, if they go in slightly deeper, that's not really a problem as such, particularly with sort of tomatoes and stuff like that. When you're putting them out, it's actually better to plant them deeper than they were when they first started. So I've got kind of 3 there, so what I'm going to do is basically very gently, just with the roots, tease them apart like that. I'm not pulling the stalks, I'm just teasing the roots apart like that. That's the first one, like that. Now these are a little bit young. I could have waited another week or so, but as I've got loads coming, what I want to do is try and get as much pricked out as early as possible, and then I know I haven't got to worry about, they can grow on in these pots then for a few more weeks before they go out into the ground. Now the ground's already ready. The ground's been prepared, so basically what I've done is I put chicken manure down, dug the ground all over. It's actually where potatoes were last year, so it had a good level of sort of manure and stuff on it last year anyway, but I've had a load of chicken manure on there. It's all been dug over, and it's been rotivated as well, so the ground's all ready to go. Before I put these in, what I will do is firm the ground down. As I say, any brassica, so cabbage, kale, broccoli or calabrese, whatever you want to call it, or anything like that, it likes the ground to be firm. They don't like loose ground, so what I'll do is walk over the ground and then just rake it over level, and then what I'll do then is basically plant the plants in. But as I say, the ground doesn't have to be loose like most plants. You actually prefer the ground to be quite firm. As long as you've got the roots in there, they'll be alright, they'll soon grow away. as I say, particularly with kale, if you grow the taller kale like I grow, because with a brassica really the root is the weakest part of the plant. So what you want to do is try and plant them reasonably deep, and then what you want to do is sort of have the ground really firm, or as firm as you can get it, and then what you'll find is that the plant will be a lot more stable in the ground than if it was in kind of looser ground. Now these cabbages here, these will stay in here for probably about another 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I don't know. This time of year they grow reasonably quickly, so as soon as they get to kind of, I don't know, about 6 inches high or so they might get there within a couple of weeks. The rate they're growing at the moment. If this nice weather that we got at the moment continues, they most certainly will get there. But as soon as they're sort of 6 inches, 9 inches high, then you really want to be pulling them out. Put them in the ground, obviously. What you can do is lime the ground. The one thing that brassicas are prone to is something called clubroot, which is a fungus in the ground. It takes about 7 years to get rid of it if you actually get it really bad in the ground. But if you put lime on the ground, brassicas don't mind lime at all on the ground. And what it does is the lime actually prevents or restricts the fungus of clubroot growing on the ground. So if you're growing potatoes, you definitely can't lime the ground. You've got to just move that. You can't lime the ground if you're growing potatoes. You know, you can only lime the ground if you're growing certain things, and brassicas are the one crop that you can put lime on the ground. So whilst you're using the ground for brassicas, it's the ideal time to put lime on the ground to keep the pH of it reasonably high. Because obviously if you're putting chicken manure on the ground like I am all the time, that tends to reduce the pH, in other words, make the soil acidic. And in those conditions, things like clubroot can get sort of in the soil. But if you put lime on the ground, making the ground more alkali, it kind of prevents those kind of problems from occurring in the first place. So it's an ideal time to put a bit of lime on the ground. You don't need a lot, you just need to sprinkle along the row before you put them in. Just sprinkle you know perhaps one of these per kind of 6 foot, 7 foot square is more than enough. You know, you don't need to put too much in. Right, I think I'm one short of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've got. I'm not sure that is a cabbage. Doesn't look like one. It's got pointed leaves. See how the leaves are pointed on there. I think that is actually a hollyhock plant. So I think I'll leave that one too. Actually. So if you look at a brassica, they have like sort of little bits cut out of the leaves, if you like, you know. Whereas this has got pointed leaves, so you can see that's distinctly different. Anyway, so what I'll do is I'll give these a water, and these will be in the greenhouse as I say for another 3 weeks or so. Obviously put a label in so you know what they are, because all brassicas look the same. So if you are to get them confused, when brassicas are small like this, so anything like kale, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbages, they all look the same until they start to develop into the adult plant. So always keep a label in, and I'll show you these in a couple of weeks' time when they've grown sufficiently to put out in the open ground. Okay, so now I'm going to put the Swede in. These are from Wilco's, called Best of All, and now's the sort of little bit early to put them in, as you can see, May to July. But because the weather that we're having is quite good, I thought I'd make a start on it. So exactly the same way as the beetroot. So that's all now gone in up this side. So what I'm going to do now is between the kale rows, I'm going to put a row of beetroot. Then as I water this, the beetroot can grow between the kale plants, and that'll be more than enough room. So I'll just put that in now. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've just put him in the ground here by the line, and all I'm doing is with the trowel, I'm just loosening up the ground a little bit because I've been stepping on it. Just going down like that, making a drill that's probably about 1 inch deep, The seeds look like that. Obviously it's a brassica, so as you'd expect, the small black dark brown spheres. And you want to sow these reasonably thinly, you know, putting them one every inch or so along like that. Then you want to cover these with about half an inch or 1.5 centimetres of ground soil, and then just pat it down like that. And then because you've made a sort of hole in the ground, you can see where the plant is, obviously because of the line as well. This line will stay here, and then basically when you're watering, you can water where the plants are as opposed to everywhere and encourage weeds to grow. So I'll be watering down this line here, and because the ground's got a slight sort of dip in it, if you like, the water will roll down into that dip and will water the seeds as opposed to either side of it. So I'll just carry on doing the row, and I'll show these in a couple of weeks when they're starting to come through. Okay, so I'm just about to plant the runner beans. Now, I'm a little bit early this year, but I thought with the nice weather that we're having, I may as well get them in and get them started, because I don't think we're really going to go too bad now. But basically all I do is I save the bean pods from the previous year. I just put a handful in a tray like that, and then these are the actual, obviously those are the beans that you actually plant. So all I do is basically wait for them to dry. You can do this sort of at the end of the year, or like me, I've left it and just sort of do that. Now all you're looking for basically is now these ones, as you can see, are a bit too dry really. They should be okay, but they're a little bit too dry, so I shan't bother with those. What I'm looking for are nice sort of plump beans like those. So ideally what you're looking for is something like that, that's got no damage to the shell, and that'll sort of generate a nice plant. So as soon as you've got enough, that'll be more than enough for me. See that one there? See that one's got a split shell, so that one, I'll reject that one. And basically you just get them out. Obviously that one there, you can see there, that one's got a little bit of canker on it, so I shan't bother with that one. But the others in this pod are okay. So anyway, as soon as you've got enough, which that's probably about enough for I want. Now I'm going to do, I'm going to put 2 beans in each one of these pots. Now these pots are the standard 4-inch square pots, and there's 30 here, so I'll have basically 30 plants, but 2 beans in each plant. And what I'm going to do is just get 2 beans and push them down. So what I tend to do is make the eye bit, that bit there, face uppermost, so the beans kind of sideways, and I'm going to push that down about an inch or so into the compost. And it's reasonably quick to do. It's just push them in like that. Now this compost again is recycled. This is what the I had some tomato plants in this compost last year, so to save compost as much as I can, I've reused it. Now the beans are only going to be in here for about a month, absolute maximum, whilst they're in the greenhouse starting off, and then they'll be out into the open ground, so you know they'll have lots of fertilised ground to grow into. So I'm not too worried about them being in recycled compost too much. As I say, I'm putting 2 in each one. The germination rate on these is pretty good. You can almost guarantee 100% success rate, to be honest with you. I've never bought runner beans. These seeds actually came from my great grandmother, and every year they passed down from my father to me. And basically every year you just save beans from the year before, and then you know, just plant them the following year, then keep going. So I've never actually bought a runner bean at all. Right, so those 2 look a little bit suspect, as you can see, so I'm going to reject those ones. So that's a, you know, you're looking for a nice looking one like that. Oh, there you go. Right, just finish these off now. Now I don't need to put any more compost over the top of these. All I need is just to give them a tap, and then you'll find that because you put them in about 2 inches, that the compost will just sort of fall in round the bean, as soon as you water them, it'll all go in anyway. Just finishing these last ones off now. So I'll have basically 30 pots in there, 60 beans growing, and then that'll be enough, more than enough for me, and that's a family of 5. So I'll typically have 15 canes on one side, 15 canes on the other side, and then I find that that's more than enough for me. And that's us eating them fresh off the plant and also freezing some for the winter as well. So you don't need to grow too many, which is probably about half a row. So the actual bean sticks are probably around I don't know, probably about 2.5 meters in length. So the actual row is like 2.5 meters in length, so it's like half a row really, and that's more than enough beans. Unless you really like beans and you want more than that, but that's more than enough for us. Obviously, I'm growing string beans as well. So all I'm doing is just loosely knocking the ground round the pot. Then all I'm going to do now is basically just firm them down. And all this does really is just make sure that the compost is in contact with the beans, like that. Now these will be, as I say, these will be in the greenhouse probably about 2 to 3 weeks. At which point they're going to be about sort of 6 inches or so high. Obviously put a name plate in, because I'll be growing string beans as well, and the two plants look very similar to each other. But what you must do is, if you're going to grow 2 types of beans like me, don't grow them next to each other, because you will get cross-pollination and then you'll end up with a hybrid bean somewhere between the two. So what you want to do is grow your runner beans at one end of the allotment, and then, or in the middle or wherever, and then grow your string beans at the end, so that at least sort of, I don't know, at least sort of 30-40 foot apart, so that you don't get too much cross-pollination between them. Now what I'm going to do now is give these a good watering, leave them in the greenhouse for, as I say, 2 to 3 weeks. As soon as they get to kind of 6-9 inches high, then I can plant them out. What you want to do is plant them out when there's no chance of frost, because if you do get a frost, it will damage the plants and then they don't typically recover from that. So typically you aim to plant out beans at the end of May, but as the weather's really good this year, I thought, well, I'll sort of try me luck, and I'll put them in a bit earlier than I do normally. So I'll be putting these out in the ground probably in about 3 weeks time, which will be kind of towards the end of May really, sort of middle to end of May. So I should be okay. So that's runner beans for you. Okay, so now I'm going to do the string beans. Now, in the exact same way as the runner beans, all I do is I keep the beans from last year. So these are just some that I took sort of mid-season, to be honest with you. And then all we need to do is sort of break them open like I'm doing here. So basically get the pod. So there's a dried pod, and then just basically just along the edge of it like that. Just put your nail in there, and then obviously there's sort of about, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 beans in each one, like that. And then you end up with loads of beans. Now, what you need to do is keep them dry whilst they're drying. So you can see there, these are nice, sort of like a blonde colour. Now these are some that I took kind of mid-season. Some that have gone over. So what it is, I pick them off, and then rather than eating them, I just sort of put them in the shed to dry out. If you do get them wet, now I had some that I took at the back end of last year, and as you can see, they're quite a different story. They've all gone all sort of fungal, and if you open one of these up, you'll find that the seeds inside as well are sort of, I'll just show you, the seeds inside have gone all sort of fungusy as well, so obviously they're no good. So what I'm going to do is rely on the ones that I took in the middle of the season last year. So any that look slightly dodgy, sort of these ones with string beans, they should be, completely white. If there's any that are kind of split open, like, hang on, I'll just find that one. I just lost it again now. If there's any that are kind of split open like that, so you can actually see the the bean, don't worry about, you know, don't just sort of discard those. And any that are discoloured like that. So what you should end up with is, see that one there again, that one's got like a split in it as well, so that's no good. So what you should end up with are some nice whole white beans like that. Now, if you save the seed, you know, they will keep it, as long as you keep them in the garage where, or in a shed or something like that in the dark where it's dry, they will keep for sort of 2 or 3 years anyway. Obviously you don't want to get them too sort of hot, but these are some seeds that I took 3 years ago, which I've kept as spares. As you can see, they're perfectly serviceable still. Obviously fresh ones are better, but if you do have a disaster like I did at the back end of last year with these, where you've lost, you know, sort of all of those, luckily I took some other beans earlier in the year, so you know, these ones are good to go. But it's always worthwhile saving a few beans back. You know, just put them in a brown bag or something like that, and then put them in the house or in your garage or whatever, somewhere safe, and then the seeds will save like that for a couple of 3 years. Anyway, on to planting. So that's saving the beans from last year. So to plant them, all I'm going to do is, again, I've got these 4-inch pots, which are the sort of square pots like that, and I've put in some again recycled compost. I've mixed 50% new compost with 50% old compost that was, I can't remember what it was, I think last year, some flowers I think or something, but that's more than good enough for the beans. And again, I'm just taking the beans like that, and what I'm going to do is put 2 or 3, actually put 3 I think, in each one of the square pots. You don't need to be too fussy on which direction they're up, to be honest with you. What you need to be doing is, as you're putting them in, just check that they're solid. You know, there's no sort of holes or anything on that, like I've just explained. And then there's no sort of brownness. It should be a nice white seed with no splits in or anything like that, and then it should grow. Because I'm putting 3 in, obviously I'm tripling my chances of a plant growing. I only really need 1 of them to grow, but you know, if 3 of them grow, I shan't prick them out. I'll just leave 3 growing. It'll just make the beans more fuller. Now I'm going to put in 90 plants, not 90 pots, so I'll have 3 of these sort of trays full of beans, and that, what I tend to find is that will do a complete row on the allotment. So a row that's sort of, I don't know, 16 foot long, something. No, sorry, 26 foot long row. If you put 90 of these in, it'll give you a couple of spares as well, just in case some don't take. And then all you need to do is obviously put 3 in each one, exactly the same as you do with any beans really, with the the runner beans or broad beans and stuff like that as well. Broad beans obviously you only put 1 in. And then I'll just give these a really good water, and obviously there's a hard shell on these beans, so you need to give them a good water to get the shell or the seed to soften, so that you can get it to germinate. So after I put 3 in each of these, all I'm going to do, I'll just take it to here, then I'll show you what's next. So I'm putting 3 and try and get the seeds as far apart as you can get them. Then all you want to do is just basically cover the seeds with compost like that, and then go back over with a pot like that, just sort of pushing the ground down so you know that the compost is in contact with the seed, and then put a label in, give them some water, and that'll be your string beans done. Okay, so that's all the beans in. The cabbages are just there. But so I've got three lots of string beans, which is 90 pots, and I've got 30 pots of runner beans, and I'll show you those in a few weeks' time as soon as they start to grow. So, I hope this episode is of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you, and I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's on the Garden.